Welcome to this live stream. I appreciate you checking it out and hanging out with me. In today's live stream, I'm going to be talking about a comment that I received on a recent post that I shared on my Instagram at gmarkphillips, talking about asking me why I care about what's happening in the Middle East and that there's always been strife and struggle there. I'm going to expand upon that because it affects us all in the world. I'm also going to be talking briefly about the Israelis bombed the humanitarian aid relief, and I think that's waking a lot of people up. I mean, the longer they go on in this mess over there, the more people that wake up, and then I guess that might be it. And if anything else comes up along the way, by the way, if you get any value from this live stream, please leave me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. I'd love to have you as a subscriber, not only here on my YouTube channel, but also anywhere at Gmark Phillips on social media. I talk about current events unfolding in the world, share information and knowledge that you're probably not going to receive from the mainstream media. I started this journey and venture back in 2022, I guess it would be, during COVID times. That kind of got me in the game in a big way. And once you pull the string and start unraveling this mess of ball of yarn in our world, you realize how everything's connected, and there are certain powers in the world that are behind all of these things that happen. And to flush them out, I will say it is, in my research and my experience, money. It's the people who have the money and the power, and they work in tandem with governments to grow their wealth and acquire more money, power, and control. The end goal, which is going to tie nicely into this comment that I'm going to share with you, is total global control, right? Through a new world order type of government. That's where I think it's going. That's where my research has led that it's going. This is, you know, capturing all of the information from a variety of different sources, people that have been studying this a lot longer than I have. That's where I think it's going. That's why I'm concerned about what's happening in Israel. So, to that point, I posted recently, a couple days ago, a video of a gentleman talking about why he is an anti-Zionist, JEW. And one of the comments I got here, I'm going to read this to you and then we'll talk about it. Um, I want to share my ideas with about this comment. So the comment said, "WTF are white people being dragged into a battle that's as old as time. JEWS and Christians believe Abraham nearly sacrificed Isaac where the temple was later built. Islamists and Muslims believe Abraham nearly sacrificed Ishmael and that Ishmael went up to heaven at that same location. Those brothers exist from different mothers. The battle is a family feud for ages." While that may be right, while that may very well be, my my interest in what's going on there is, as maybe yours, the implications for what is happening there in WW3, right? If you're familiar with Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini, written in 1871, outlining three WWs, um, and also familiar with the founding fathers of Israel, the Rothschilds, and also familiar with their goal, yeah, or also familiar with who they are, right? Who that family is, what they're into, what they're all about. Um, I've never seen anything good come out of that family, to be quite honest. And believe me, I've looked. If you're familiar with those things, and there's probably a bunch more reasons, you know that they only want to cause mischief and chaos in the world. They don't have anything good planned for humanity. I don't think Israel should have ever been put there. And I say that because as I look and watch documentaries and read information about the Nakba and the catastrophe that happened, what people need to keep in mind, and I don't know if people fully realize this, is what's happening in Gaza right now has been that's been happening since 1948, right? Since the inception of Israel. And when you really wrap your mind around it, I don't know, I haven't done the math on it, but 1948 to 2024, let's say what, 70 years? When you really wrap your mind around it, it is unfathomable that that type of behavior, granted, they're going hard in the paint right now. It's unfathomable that that type of behavior has been going on for that long. It's unbelievable. I can't even wrap my mind around it. I recently watched the documentary Tantura, which I'm going to be sharing some short videos on my social media at Mark Phillips, and also doing a review in the review series on my YouTube channel. When you really wrap your mind around it, they were doing horrific things back then. And Jewish people are now waking up to the fact that even they admit, Seth Rogen has a great clip out there. Even they admit they were lied to, and they didn't know people. Some of them didn't know people were living in those types of situations. Were living in that land when before that became a Jewish state. They didn't know that. They weren't told that. Our education system doesn't exactly do the greatest job in educating people about what's going on in the world. The victors write the history, and you know how that goes, right? So a lot of information is coming to light about what's been happening over there in Israel. Um, and so to this person who wrote this comment, I just invite them to check it out themselves. I mean, yes, it may be, and things may be happening around the world, and they may feel, oh, somewhat insulated in the United States here. But when you look at what the globalist plan is, it is a global totalitarian new world order. And it's not lost on me that this does appear to be biblical. It's not lost on me that it does appear to be biblical, and I don't want to necessarily um, get too far into the ramifications of that. But however, when you look in the world, and you are a human being in this world, and you see atrocities and genocide being perpetrated, what I feel is genocide being perpetrated on other people, and I also know that the Zionists that are doing this would do the same thing to me if I were in those shoes, and want to do the same thing to me, in my opinion, right? They don't care about they don't care who's who. They want what they want, right? They appear to have this determination in their mind that we're going to do whatever we're going to do, and we don't care who is in our way. That's why I speak out about this. That's why I'm involved in that. You know, um, it just is what it is. I don't know how else to put it, but it's not something that I'm down with at all in any way, shape, or form. And that's why I speak out about it. But also, it affects me, right? I live in this world. I don't want to live in a world run by psychopaths, sociopaths, insane people. And that's why I share the information that I do. I'm really trying to recruit people and wake people up. Some people don't want to get involved. They think it's too challenging. They think the information is just too hard to wrap your mind around. And I get it. I get it. We are in an information war. We are in a psyop, a huge psy war, right? And what happens is, I think they do that deliberately to deliberately shut people down. They do not want people to get involved. They want people to go, oh, it's overwhelming, so I'm not going to get into it at all. Or there's so much information and misinformation and disinformation that I'm not going to try to wrap my mind around it at all. And then they retreat altogether. And that is, I believe, by design, right? Remember, in a psy war, there's misinformation and disinformation and a little bit of truth and all of the things that are going on designed to confuse people, right? I'm not a military strategist. However, I do know that if you can confuse your enemy and make them think one thing and really be doing another thing, and like espionage, counter espionage, all of the BS that goes on, I do know that if your enemy is confused about what you're doing, where you're doing it, how you're doing it, you increase your chances of winning the war. And this is why I share this information. You know, it needs to be shared all of humanity at least needs to be aware, or could be aware of what is happening over there, and the history of Israel, because I didn't know it. I didn't know anything about it at all. And when they started the BS right after October 7th, which was a huge freaking red flag to me, I was like, what's going on? So you're telling me this Iron Dome and this, you know, highly sophisticated border, the system broke down for multiple hours. Okay, got it. It was reminiscent of September 9 slash Uno Uno. And I'm like, okay, this all looks this is a template type of a situation in from my perspective, from my point of view. Like this looks like I can recognize this work. I can see where this is going. I've seen this before. And so that's why I got involved. And the ramifications are for everyone on planet Earth, right? For everyone on planet Earth, this will touch them, right? If you're talking about a totalitarian government, if you're talking about, not to mention the fact that there are innocent women and children and men that are unarmed being murdered over there. It's heartbreaking to watch. I look at what's left of that city of Gaza, and I can't imagine how people there's there's no way they're going to be able to go back there and what's happening to them. And then you also throw into the mix what we know about the military industrial complex. So American tax dollars, this is the great ruse. This is the real shitty part of it. American tax dollars are used to buy the bombs to do that to those people over there, those Palestinians, and destroy that city. And then American tax dollars are used to rebuild it. Now, many believe there may be other plans for that city. I'm one of those people that probably believe that. I can see that being a very real possibility. It's bullshit. Same thing's happening in Ukraine. Same thing has happened in a lot of wars. I don't know what's happening in Afghanistan. I don't think we're rebuilding anything in Afghanistan. I know we spent money building infrastructure there, but I don't know what we destroyed in order to do that process of enriching the military industrial complex. See, I don't know if enough Americans realize the potential peril that we're in, right? America is in a real precarious situation. I don't think we're coming back from this, quite frankly. I think this is an end game type of scenario. The currency is, I don't know how it's still floating around out there, to be honest. The currency is, impending collapse, civil strife and unrest in the United States, um, social, cultural, all the things. I mean, we're being, inundated with people from other countries. So to wrap this idea up, let me just talk about this notion that all these things are happening, right? And we're seeing them play out. And we also have to remember, and this is something I remind myself all the time, we also have to remember that we see what the mainstream media wants us to see. And I'm seeing, in fact, just recently as I was preparing for this video, I was watching Good Morning America, and they were talking about heinous crimes and atrocities, warish crimes that Israel is committing. And I'm thinking to myself, that's interesting, because we know that the powers that be, the powers that really run our United States, they own those channels, and they're going to show us what they want us to see. So my point is this: I think everything that's happening in the world is about pitting us against one another. It's about creating tension, creating animosity, creating fear, creating warlike behaviors in human beings. And I think it's all by design. I'll even fold in what happened in 2020 and 2021 with the you know what. I think as I wrap my mind around it more and more, I think that was another way to divide us and to pit us against one another. Look what happened. Friendships splintered, family relationships splintered, work relationships splintered. Um, it is, in my estimation, another divide and conquer tactic. And so I think that's their whole game plan, because remember, if you've read the letter, Albert Pike's letter to Mazzini, and you are familiar with what the Rothschilds have done in prior WWs, They've already done this. This is a game plan they've used over and over again. They pit people against one another. They play both sides against the middle, and as soon as everything is flattened, they come in and they sweep the board and they buy up all of they acquire the assets, so to speak. Mayor Rothschild did that. I want to say during the Napoleon War. Don't quote me on that, but remember he went in and told everyone, "Hey, in England, hey, we're or was it France? I might have it mixed up. But, hey, we're losing. We're going to lose." People sold off their stuff, and he's like, "Well, I guess I'll buy it." He bought it up at fire sale prices. It was a rich man's trick. It was false, and he acquired, to my understanding, businesses and land and all sorts of goodies at fire sale prices, and it was a rich man's trick. And my my wish and my prayer for humanity is that we do not have another bullshit like that. And I'm speaking to myself too. I get caught up in what the media is showing as well. It's difficult to watch the media and not have your heartstrings pulled, but we also have to remember this is what they do. They did it during COVID times. They did it during the Iraq invasion. They do it during Afghanistan invasion. This is the game they play. Remember, the media is ran by the same corporations that run a lot of uh, other businesses and companies in the world. It could be BlackRock, and they're the largest. They hold the largest shares of companies in the world. It could be BlackRock and companies like them that are enriching themselves on the back end, pulling strings on the front end to sway public opinion and manipulate the public into doing things they wouldn't normally do. And so I keep that in my mind all the time, and that's my invitation to you is to remember that as well, because again, we can't have this continue to go on. Um, I've heard talks of tens of billions of dollars transferred from the lower middle class up to the 1% during the last 4 years of COVID times. That's bullshit. That can't happen again. And it's only because we were manipulated and played, right? People did things they wouldn't normally do. They fundamentally radically changed people's behavior. Bill Gates talks about uh 10 years, I think it's 10 years worth of transitioning to the online world or the digital world. We're talking things like having Zoom meetings, people working from home, people doing all sorts of things online in a digital way. 10 years of the equivalent of 10 years happened in like 2 years because there was a perceived, I don't know how real it was. We'll never really know how real it was. I don't know. Situation in the world that precipitated that. So look at how much money companies like Amazon made. Look at how much money companies like Microsoft made. Look at cybersecurity companies. Look at companies like Zoom. I'll even throw in BetterHelp. What a fortuitous turn of events for BetterHelp to come on the scene right when, I don't know when they came on. I should probably look that up. But the commercials started going during COVID times. What an amazing turn of events. Reminds me of all of the trades that happened right prior to Nueve. I hope I got that right. Nueve/Uno. Um, it's just something to think about. I know some people don't like to go down those roads. I like to go down those roads because I live on planet Earth and I don't have another planet to go to. And I'd rather clean up the bullshit and the corruption and the collusion on this planet than not, or than just put my head in the sand. And I'll tell you another thing for me personally. The reason that I go so hard on these topics and that I share this information is because for 20 years, I didn't give a shit. I was in selfish mode, right? I didn't care what my government was doing as long as I had mine, my entertainment, my shopping experiences, my own bread and circuses to the degree that I, enjoyed those. But over the last few years, it's become very clear to me that, oh yeah, I was part of the problem there, and that's a huge problem. I was part of the problem, and so now my mission and my purpose is to try to be part of the solution to the degree that I can. So that's what I want to share with you in this live stream. I appreciate you. Leave me a thumbs up if you liked it. Oh, we do need to talk about the the humanitarian aid workers being bombed. I saw a video of a a person in the IDF talking about the fact of saying, "Hey, we're sorry about that. We did that. It wasn't intentional." Um, they appear to be completely out of control, completely just, and that same things happened when US goes into foreign countries under, false premises and does things. Those things kind of things happened in Afghanistan, they happened in Iraq. Um, I'm not saying that war is not a that the thing accidents don't happen in war, but I feel that there's something turning and shifting. It could be just the totality of what people are seeing coming out of Gaza, and it has definitely switched from an, "Oh, we're defending ourselves," to, "We're going to annihilate this whole area," and I think people are seeing it, they're waking up. The bots aren't waking up, the comment bots that still happen when you post something about what's happening in Gaza, but it's gone too far. I mean, it's gone completely off the rails, and I think the tide is turning against Israel and the Zionists. And the other thing I will end with this. Again, this is what I do, and it's my invitation to you if you'd like to think this way too. Just as in America, not all Americans are bad people. We have some bad actors running our country, leading our country clearly, insider trading within our representatives, making back deals, 10% for the big guy, making some type of sometimes real estate deals or business deals. And I'm sure there's some type of a kickback involved that, these billionaire philanthropists and other people in the military industrial complex that have corporations and companies, including pharma, going to politicians and saying, "Hey, we don't want to go direct to the people anymore. We'll just go to you and you cut us a fat check, maybe some millions or maybe some billions, and then we'll deal directly with you and you go push it down on the people." This is why my whole view of what the United States is, and probably most governments around the world, has changed very dramatically. And I now see them for what they are, what they appear to be, is middlemen between corporations and what I call the tax chattel, right? Us, the people, those of us who are paying taxes, we'll just take your money and we'll give it to our colleagues in corporations, and we'll take our kickback. We'll live a cush life. We'll live in mansions all around the world. We'll have private security. We'll have bunkers. We'll have the best of everything because we're the consigliaries or liaisons between these billionaire philanthropists and these global multinational corporations. And I'm not the only one to come to this conclusion. Many people, Smedley Butler comes to mind, and many people have talked about this specifically. Sometimes in special forces, they say, "Yeah, we became aware, or I became aware during my special forces time that all I was is a tool for the military industrial complex. Go and secure this country's resources and lock it down so that we can bring in and exploit them." I mean, this is what where was a good example of that? This is what happened in it's happening in Ukraine, whereas when in 2014, when they took that loan from the IMF and they bundled all of the resources in Ukraine, or a lot of them up in that rich farmland, and that's what the money lenders want in our world. That's how they grow their wealth, right? It's basically mafioso type behavior. They use covert action agencies to go in and lock that up. But it happened in Ukraine. I'm trying to think of another example where it's readily apparent, where Libya is an example where Libya and Muammar Gaddafi was trying to establish um, more. Let me get this right. More self-reliance and enrich that area of Africa with the water line system and the agriculture, and selling oil based on the dinar. It happened. It's happening. It happened there. And of course, when that happens, then the covert action agency goes in, and this is where Hillary Clinton did her dirty work in under the State Department, and removes that person. But that's all because there was a phone call from someone, I'm assuming, saying, "Hey, Muammar Gaddafi's trying to, excuse me, enrich the people of Libya, and we cannot have that." And also go moving away or challenging the petrodollar, right? And that can't be. So that's what happens, right? When these covert action agencies uh, ran by money. So, you know, check out the video of the people that, were bombed in that humanitarian effort, our humanitarian convoy. It's horrific. That's going to wake a lot of people up. There was something else I was going to tell you. It might have slipped my mind. Um, that might be it. Before I leave, I want to ask you again for a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Also, if you haven't downloaded the free PDF that I put together many months ago called The Great Awakening Guide, you can do that for free at greatawakeningguide.com. That's version 3. I'm working on version 4 with more links to documentaries, videos, book resources. 31, I think there's 31 ways in there that you can things you can do to protect yourself and your family in these crazy times, and be part of the solution as opposed to being part of the problem. Let me just see if I can think of some of them off the top of my head. One of them is share knowledge and information. If you're so inclined, turn your social media channels into a citizen journalist. That's one of the things. Also, keep an eye on the money system. If you saw my video about The Great Taking by David Rogers Webb, that's the documentary. I did a review in the review series, and you can check it out on my channel on YouTube here. You know that they are positioned to sweep the board, so to speak, of assets and such, including securities and stocks and bonds. If we don't stop them, that will be the final end game that they want. And so be sure to watch The Great Taking, because I don't want you to end up in a shitty situation where maybe you're blindsided by, globalists wanting to do what they've always done, right? They did this in twice in my lifetime. They didn't actually take assets, physical assets or stocks and bonds, but they did take a loan from the United States federal government. It wasn't a loan. It wasn't a loan. To my knowledge, it was a blank check. It was a check saying, "Hey, people are going to bail you out, Wall Street. You screwed up." Again, twice in my lifetime, once in 2008, maybe 3 times. Was there a little blip in 2012? But there was once in 2008. That was the big one. Stock market was down 40%. I think that's how much it was down at the lowest point. And then in early 2000s, the dot-com bubble, Wall Street bailed them out, because you remember, there's no difference between Wall Street and politicians. Those politicians are the liaisons, in my experience, to those corporations and to the private central bankers, right? This is why Donald Trump takes $1 million from Pfizer at the beginning of his campaign for his inauguration. And then a few years later, he didn't do it himself, but the government of the United States, he spearheaded the Operation Warp Speed. He gives Pfizer however many billion. So they kick him $1 million. He kicks them $1 billion. That's how it works, right? And this is why I'm no longer for any politician. I'm probably the most for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., to be quite honest. I mean, having watched his documentaries about Anthony Fauci, read a little bit of his, or most of his book, also about Anthony Fauci, I no longer buy what politicians are selling, because I know at that level, you don't get to be president or senator or whatever else unless you are backed by the money. And so I'm awake and aware to that. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for checking out this video. I really appreciate you. Until next time, I wish you all the best health, wealth, and success. Have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.